Guten Abend, meine Damen und Herren. Es ist für mich eine große Ehre, heute Abend hier zu sein. Ich habe Deutschland und besonders Berlin immer sehr gern und es ist eine große Vergnügen, meine Kollegen des deutschen Blätterwelt hier zu sehen. Aber nun endlich kann ich Ihre schöne Sprache foltern, anhalten und ich werde Englisch sprechen, wenn that's... thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here. There are differences between British and German journalists. You are so much better dressed. It's quite remarkable. And you are so much better, fitter looking. I mean, the British journalist, and I'm a prime example, has a large stomach. This is and this is not just to do with, this is not just a male thing, alas. It's a bit of a shock, actually, to me to see so many well-dressed people. It is, however, I mean, there may be differences between British and German and French and German and French and British and all the rest of it, journalists, but it is actually, of course, a small world, a very small world. There are only a few dozen of people that are involved in what we're involved in, you and I. And to show that, I've already seen here 4 people that I know with reason, differing with different degrees of closeness. But I mean, to see a friend of mine from Sarajevo is absolutely lovely. And only 10 days ago, I was in a dreadful hotel in a place called Ras Lanuf in Libya, a place which now sadly is under the control of Colonel Gaddafi's troops again, but was then briefly controlled by the rebels. And somebody came up to me and introduced himself, and he said, "I hope he said we're going to be in the same place on the 17th of this month, which is only 10 days away." So I thought, what does he mean? In prison or something, possibly? But I thought he might know more than I did about what Colonel Gaddafi's troops were going to be. But no, he's here tonight, and there we are. We were in Ras Lanuf on the, I think, the 8th of the month, and now here's the 17th, and here we are, and he's getting an award, and a thoroughly deserved award too. So we are close. We have the same problems. I mean, I felt that I detected in the things that the jury members were saying in that little film that there is now starting to be in Germany something which we sadly have had in Britain for much longer than you, I think, that feeling that we have to justify ourselves. We have to explain to people why foreign reporting in particular, but reporting of all kinds and good quality reporting is necessary to a society. And sadly, I think this is the first time in 150 or more years when it's been necessary to tell people that journalism, good journalism, quality journalism is necessary for a society, for people to understand what's happening in the world. And that I find very disturbing. I find it deeply disturbing in my own country. It's long since passed that moment of feeling nervous about it in America. I mean, people were saying these sorts of things that we're now saying in the late 80s and the beginning of the 90s in the United States. And we've been going through it in Britain. And clearly, well, I know from what I read that in Germany it's the same, that sense that we have to give a sort of an explanation for the job that we do. On the other hand, I think we have to ask ourselves a question, which is, whoever said that journalism was supposed to be a safe job? It shouldn't ever be safe, as I think everybody in this room knows. It's not. If you want a safe job, go and be a you know, I don't know what, a building contractor. Go and be well, I think perhaps I won't say what I was going to say. Go and, you know, go into the porn industry. But don't think that, you know, don't think that the business of telling a society about itself and about the world it finds itself in is ever going to be safe. Because it isn't. And I don't just mean those two of us in the room, who, or perhaps there were more, who were in Ras Lanuf when Colonel Gaddafi's bombs were dropping on the town. That, of course, is not very safe in one way or another. But to be a top-flight political journalist, to be an ordinary political journalist, is dangerous. It isn't dangerous in that you may lose a leg or an arm. It's dangerous in that you might lose your livelihood. You might lose your reputation. And good journalism always, it seems to me, and this is just as true in Germany as it is in Britain, good journalism is always on the edge. It's always just pushing that little bit further. You know, Germany has newspapers and organizations like my own, like the BBC, which have a reputation for being rather grand and magisterial and telling people what's going on. But as we know, that magisterial quality is also matched with a daring and a dangerous quality to it. When I used to hire journalists to be foreign correspondents in the BBC, I used to think, is this person sitting in front of me likely to do something that is dangerous to report, that he might take a risk with it, that he might or she might feel that they could name somebody who it could be quite difficult to name. And always, if I felt that was the case, I used to think, yes, well, I'll give that person a job because it's worth it. That's what organizations like mine need. I'm not always a great fan, for instance, of the magnificent newspaper, the New York Times. It often seems to me to be distinctly boring, actually. But which newspaper in the United States published the WikiLeaks revelations? And what happened as a result of publishing them? We've just seen what happened in Tunisia when the remarks, private as he thought, that were made by the American ambassador in Tunis about President Ben Ali and all his family and where he was putting all the money and so on. When those remarks were published in the New York Times, they brought people out onto the streets. And the people that came out onto the streets in Tunisia brought people out onto the streets in Egypt. And people that came out on the streets in Egypt had an effect, of course, a major effect in Libya itself. We don't know where the story is going to end yet, but it will do. And that was bold and brave. And individuals who go and do these things, that takes, I think, an even greater degree of courage. You know, when you have an institution that decides to take risks, that's magnificent. If a great newspaper or a great broadcasting authority decides to go out on a limb and say things that perhaps others wouldn't want them to say, that's magnificent. But there's a certain safety there. You're surrounded by people who are committed to the decision that they can't easily go back on and so forth. But tonight, we're honoring people that did these things on their own. Sure, their bosses were happy with their work, otherwise they wouldn't have published it or wouldn't have broadcast it. But it's that early sense of loneliness which I think is characteristic of our trade. For a long time, you feel yourself to be entirely on your own, and you just hope that your organization will back you up and then that the public in general will back you up. Well, tonight we're here to greet and reward those people who've taken that kind of decision, who put their reputations, their jobs, sometimes in some cases their lives on the line, and fortunately, thank God, have got away with it and have succeeded, and we're here to witness their success. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Simpson.